Hey, welcome to Kora Repairs. Your friend Marty asked me to see if I could put up a little video about changing the strings, putting on a new string when one of them is broken. Usually it would be one of the higher strings that would break because they're under quite a bit of tension and of course they're not as strong. I'm also going to adding this part of the string that attaches to the tailpiece here. Sometimes this will break as well, you know. Kind of depends on the material. On this kora, I'm tying it a certain way, but sometimes this is just one string because it's quite heavy. But sometimes I would double it, you know, just put it through and double it, and then make a loop. So I have a loop at the end here, and I'm using a what do you call it? Anyway, I hit a knot that creates a loop, a bowline knot I've used here, but you could just even do a double it over and you know, make a little half hitch kind of loopy thing. It's not as elegant, but I'll put a link to this what do you call it? This PDF I have of different knots and things that I use. So anyway, I'll start by putting this on. I'm just going to loop this string to the same place where it might have broken, you know what I mean? So you can use any string. If you don't have a particular string that came with it, just, you know, kind of anything that will work and that you like the looks of will be fine. So in this case I'm using one string, like I said, because it's heavy, and I'm just going to adjust this loop so it's pretty close to where it was, like so. It's not essential, you know, something like a violin or viola or whatever. This part of the string is pretty vital in terms of the sound quality. I think on the kora it's not so important, you know. Although you could probably do a study and find some differences. But for the purposes of this video, just so that this loop is more or less around where the other ones are. So from there, I've looped it around the tailpiece ring thing, and I'm just going to do a bunch of half hitches to secure it. If your string is thinner and it's doubled, and you've doubled it over here, really all you have to do is create the loop at the approximate place. But because this is a half hitch, because this is a single strand, I'm going to just tie it off at the end there, and pretty much just doing a bunch of half hitches. You can make it look pretty too if you want, but it's not so important. So you can see that. So we've got this here, and this loop is here now. It's right from here. It's very simple. All I'm going to do is loop the string, which you probably can't see, but it's a very thin piece of monofilament. And if you have one of my koras, then you have some extra strings, most likely. And I'm just going to twist around it and do what's called a fisherman's notch. And again, on that handout, I have a description of this knot. And it's what fishermen might use to attach a hook to a line. And basically just tighten it. And there you go, it's done, you know. From there, what I'm going to do is just loop the string back into the rawhide strip that I use for tuning right here. In a lot of cases, if your string breaks down near the bottom here, you see these loops I put on my strings. Quite often there's enough on that loop to just unwind it and pull the string down and tie it back on to the in this case the jute lower string part, and that works really great. But eventually, if it breaks a couple times, or you completely want to change them, then you might have to put a new string on. You know. At some point, that length will run out. But you can see this string is just massive. You know, you could do a lot of breaks on it. One thing I don't find the strings really wear out. You know, the strings on my kora that I play usually, I'm sure it must be 5 years old, and sound quality is pretty much the same. You know, so unlike a guitar where you can change them a lot, I think this has a lot to do with the fact that on a guitar or something, your fingers are touching the strings all the time on the fingerboard, and you know, and also a lot of the strings are wound, and those wear out even quicker. And if you have really oily skin, the oil gets into them and wrecks them up. Anyway, but in this case, it's a heart really, so very little. You don't really need to change them very much. So from here, all I'm going to do, and you can see, if you need a guide for yourself, you can see how I wind it around the rawhide tuning strips, and basically I'm just threading it through a whole bunch of times. And the thinner strings I wind around more loops, just because it gives it more grip, you know. And the thinner strings are more slippery and thin and stuff. So I'm going to do that. You probably have one of these little nail things, and I just tuck that in there to open up a space, you know. So I'm just going to do that. Move it around a bunch of times. So I wish I could, if there was someone here, they could kind of come in close to see. So I'm not even sure if you'll be able to see this, you know. As you can see, I'm just looping it around. You can do this, once you get accustomed to doing it, you can change it in minutes, you know. Even on this video where I'm trying to clumsily describe what the heck I'm doing, it's just taking me a few minutes, you know. So now, you know, I've come along a bit, I'm going to tuck the nail into the loop a bit further down, which opens up a space. They're kind of all curled because they've been wound up into loops for quite a while. This is my new kora, one of the koras I just recently made. It's for sale. Beautiful instrument, full size. Marty, just kind of full size like yours, you know. But I have to say, this is a really beautiful instrument. But the one that Marty you have with the alkyd and everything, it's super special, you know. Maybe the best instrument. Anyway, not a good selling point. This is a beautiful kora as well. It has a beautiful sound. I've made it in Thailand. The kora, the gourd is from West Africa, Ghana, I think. The skin I got in it's a cowhide from Bangkok, but it's a Thai cowhide, so the hair was just really thin, you know, it's hot. So from there, I got the string looped around here, you know. So from there, I'm just gonna put in the bridge. It's obviously too loose, and just tune it up. And by that, I just take the nail and tighten the string up and along the line here. Just go a little bit higher, but you get the idea. Thanks.